Matlhaope. Have I got it right?
That's accurate.
I got it right, sir?
You got it right, sir. Congratulations.
Asante sana.
Asante.
You are from Botswana.
Yes, sir.
And you are in Kenya.
I am in Kenya.
Why are you here?
Very interesting question. Good morning, listener. My name is, as my host has mentioned, Dr. Master Matlhaope. I am the CEO of the Association of Evangelicals in Africa. It's a continental body, but housed here in Kenya, along Valley Road.
Now, we're in a very interesting season in Kenya, as you must have seen.
Yes.
It's all about elections, left, right, center. Stations collating, others conceding, others preparing for celebrations. For elective positions, when one is not elected, are they still a leader? Because that really is the crux of the matter. That's what we want to unpack today. Not elected, are you still a leader?
Thank you very much. Maybe let me congratulate Kenya for the democratic dispensation, because this is a collective choice that the Kenyans embrace democracy. Not elected, are you still a leader? What is a leader? That is key.
Yes.
Leadership or a leader, leadership is an innate function in an individual to influence others on a course of direction. Now, that innate function is not necessarily a position. It is an innate function that you have. You are a leader, and now this leadership could be the thing that made people to now give you the position to lead them. So there is leadership before position, and leadership is not position, and position is not leadership. So the question, you are not elected, are you still a leader? Should be looked at in that context. That leadership is function and it is not position. What you were doing, you were aspiring a position as a leader. You were a leader before the position. And you should be a leader with or without a position. That is how I look at this. And I would say to whoever is not elected, position does not make you a leader, but leadership is an innate function. The question is, do you have that innate function inside of you? Secondly, is there a cause? Is there a cause? Now, if those two are there, then you are a leader with or without a position.
Now, it's very interesting you say that, because in our situation here in Kenya, when you add up all the elective positions in a general election such as ours today, total 16,000 plus. For elective positions, 1,000, under 2,000, which means that in a couple of days, we need to say a prayer for the 14,000.
Yes.
Now, for those then that are getting into leadership, so in a sense, are you advocating that leadership is nurtured or leadership is nature?
Leadership, there has been studies throughout the larger part of history. Even now, study on the subject of leadership is on. And one of the questions is a leader born
or made?
Or is a leader made? Now, there are those who say it's both. A leader may be born, but leadership requires skills. Therefore, a leader could be both born and made. you could be born a leader, but without nurturing and preparations and skilled and retooling, you may become a bad leader. But you are a leader who is not a very good leader. So that is what I will say concerning is a leader born or nurtured.
And you have written a book on leadership.
Yes.
I'm really curious because offset before we came on air, there are areas that I was touching on that seemed to have been extracted from this. What are some of these, and what comes with the terrain of leadership? Making those difficult decisions. There are those who want to be all so inclusive and indecisive that they don't, and we say, there's no leadership here.
Yeah, well, I would say leadership is generally in deficit in Africa. And it is for that we need men and women who really understand leadership and what is required of them as leaders. When you aspire to be a leader, especially in the context of our continent, and by extension, Kenya, it must be for a cause. It should be leadership for efficiency and effectiveness. It should be leadership for probity. Let me touch on efficiency and effectiveness. When you aspire to be a leader, it should be for a cause of ensuring there is effectiveness and efficiency in all the public infrastructure. Are you coming with that in mind to ensure that there is efficiency of service delivery, effectiveness of service delivery, and to ensure that the ordinary citizen is key in the whole equation? The effectiveness of your services, the efficiency of the services are towards this person because he is key. And that by extension brings in the question of servant leadership. Who are you becoming a leader for whose sake and why? So it should be leadership for efficiency and effectiveness. 2, leadership for probity. Leadership for probity, it should be leadership with decency, with morality, with ethics. Africa needs that. Because an investor who wants to put money, who has money, and he wants to put money for investment and to create jobs and employment, is looking for leadership that is honest, leadership that is responsible. So it should be for a cause that we go for leadership. It should be leadership for the rule of law, not rule by law. Rule of law meaning you create environment where all are equal before the law, and not rule by law, whereby the government or the state is above the law. But everybody is equal before the law. And so Africa needs such leadership with specific cause. Yes.
And with examples from the Bible, I think we're discussing David before this.
Yeah.
How did David deal with the whole subject of opposition? Because you find that in the run-up to elections, everybody's campaigning, selling the manifestos, and, some, bring the other down so that they remain up, etc., and so on. And the ones who you are in that same space, are they your competitors or opponents? And what's the difference anyway?
Yeah. Talking about David is a very interesting figure because I would say David was a political leader. Because sometimes reading the Bible, we always think we equate him to a pastor. He's a pastor, but David was more occupying a political office. And one of the things that put David in that pedestal of leadership, at the time when he faced Goliath, you can see that the young man was not going against Goliath for his own sake.
No, he was.
You read the text, he was very concerned about the children of Israel and how they are low, and how this uncircumcised Philistine is boasting against these people of God. That drove David, that agitated David to lift the status of his people. That is the first thing. David was not going there for his own sake. He was going there to lift the status of his people. That's the first thing. The second thing, the question of how he dealt with his opposition, is a very good example. David took leadership as an opportunity to show grace to his opposition. Once you are a leader, you are a father figure. Everybody looks up to you for protection, for care. So David, for those who were his opponents, even before he assumed the position of leadership, he showed grace by looking for the descendants of Saul and doing good to them. 2, David showed forgiveness. There was a time when one of the subjects, when his son usurped power from him, one of the subjects really terrorized him, I would say. He really spoke bad to David and told David, "You are a man of blood. Now God has shown you that you are nothing. Your son has taken a position of leadership from you." And a certain army general was very agitated. And he was about to rise up to strike that other fellow. But David said, "No." And he said to him, "Remember your own sins. Remember your own weaknesses." So leadership, David demonstrated that a leader should show mercy to his subjects. And that is one of the reasons why God calls man to lead man, not angels to lead man. But he calls man with weaknesses to lead another man who is weak, so that you are always merciful to the other. So these are some of the examples that we should learn as leaders. Those who will win should see their win not as an opportunity to do vengeance on those who oppose them, but as an opportunity to show forgiveness, to show grace, to show mercy, and to show unity. Because when you forgive another leader, by the way, every leader has followers. So when you forgive a leader, there is peace between the two of you. And once there is peace between the two of you, you have followers who have always been championing your causes. And when they see peace between the two of you, your followers also create peace between themselves. So it is incumbent upon leadership to show grace, to show forgiveness, and ensure unity of the people. And competitor or adversary, you are not rivals, you are not opponents, you are competitors. You share the same space. You share the same country. You share, your relatives have intermarried, and you have no other country. So it's just competition of ideas. You are bringing ideas on the table, and you are saying, I have these ideas, I can implement them this way. The other one says, I have this. So it's a competition of ideas, and people make a choice between the two of you. So And when you are not chosen, it could be that your ideas were just necessary as catalysts. And by the way, it doesn't mean that your ideas are going to be discarded. As I said earlier, leadership is not position.
No.
Even if you are not chosen in a position, you continue function as a leader. And by projecting your ideas continuously, championing those ideas. And if they are good, they will be utilized for the good of the country and by extension for the good of all.
So in a sense then, right, like now, until, of course, in the next 1 week or so, when you now know all those who are elected into office, there are those who are now conceding. But just maybe take us through the process of accepting, conceding, and just revisiting, as it were, rule of law, not rule by law, and the options that you have, so that at the end of it, if I'm not elected, even if I don't agree with the decision of the supreme verdict, so to speak, I accept. It seems to be in short supply in Africa.
Now, let's take it from here. We are in a democratic space, and democratic space provides for plurality of ideas, plurality in the society. And when you come, and it gives you an opportunity, and this is what we should all celebrate as Kenyans, what Kenyans should celebrate, an opportunity given to every Kenyan to show what they can do. And Kenyans have come forth with ideas. Some said, I want to be a governor because this is what I want to. Some say, I want to be a member of parliament. Others have said, few have said, I want to be president. Now there are limited spaces for that. Now this becomes now a competition of ideas. Now, when you go into competition, there are two options: win or lose. This should be inside of you as a competitor. I am either going to win or I'm going to lose. It's not only one option. There are two options. That is why it is important for especially politicians, because you have a challenge as a political contender to show positiveness. You always tell your followers, we are going to win. We are going to make it. This time we are going to win. You are trying to create a positive mind. But at the same time, you must have it at the back of your mind. I may lose. It is not weakness. It is democratic credential that you should have as a democratic competitor. I may lose. So like now, as announcements are being made, and some are going to be made very, very, very soon, I will advise, have two speeches. A speech for victory and a speech for a loss. It's a must.
Yes.
Don't only have a speech for victory. Have both. And if you win, thank God, then pull your speech for victory. And if you lose, still thank God for the opportunity. Take out your speech for loss. That speech should be coined, either way. It should be coined such that you lose in grace. You lose and you show magnanimity even in loss. You win in magnanimity and show the magnanimity in your win. So you shouldn't, it's not do or die. Avoid the attitude of do or die. There's nothing like that in a democratic dispensation. There is do or next time. And some of you may say, but Dr. Obi, age is not on my side, this was my last shot, it's okay.
I only have one bullet.
It's okay. You need to have a perspective of leadership where you understand, one, leadership is global. Two, leadership is timeless. These are aspects of leadership from God's perspective, because God looks at the whole globe, and God is the architect of leadership, and God has the world in view, and also leadership is timeless. Let me look at the timeless nature of leadership. You must know that leadership is timeless. In other words, it outlives you as an individual. One, leadership predates you, leadership outlives you. And therefore, as a leader, you must do what they call leadership by multiplication. Multiply yourself in others, so that even if you no longer have energy, you have multiplied yourself in others, that they can perpetuate your aspirations and the cause for your leadership. So that even tomorrow, you have lost today, there is tomorrow. Even when your mentees, those that you have poured your leadership or multiplied in, are now in leadership position, you can still celebrate your leadership in others, seeing the cause for which you had set for yourself be implemented by others. You can still have fulfillment as a leader.
And indeed, I think that is very profound, because I love the bit you said, leadership predates you and outlives you.
Yeah.
And we're here for a season, so to speak. And before you, there were others. Yes. After you, there will be others. It doesn't start and end with you, that if you're not there, nothing happens. So then, help unpack how we then would judge leadership. How do you judge leadership?
Leadership, for example, in where we are at a decisive moment, where there is a winner and loser. Your leadership credentials are called forth. You cannot afford to be in the periphery. You cannot afford to sit on the fence. There are lives that hangs on the balance on you. You have to be decisive. You have to show leadership in loss. You have to show leadership in victory. So it's a very decisive moment, very critical moment for leadership. Like I said, at this very particular moment, you need to demonstrate your full understanding that leadership is not position. I am not desperate for this position to the extent that I don't have this position and therefore there is no life. Then you are not a leader, or your leadership is questionable. But you need to demonstrate that even if I lose, I am a leader. And what kind of a leader? For peace? For acrimony? For violence? No. So this is the moment to demonstrate what kind of a leader. Are you a leader for peace? Are you a leader for unity? Are you a leader for development? Are you a leader for the betterment of the country? These are called forth now. You cannot be on the fence. You need to demonstrate leadership at this decisive moment. So it's not do or die. It's just that people have to make a choice, and there is one position is taken by the other, and your maturity as a leader will be now shown on how you accept the laws. If you feel, for example, that there was something amiss in the process, if you have a just cause to say, look, there were a few things. I like Kenya. We haven't done bad in terms of issues of governance. This country has a free space for expression, personal expression of self. You are free to demonstrate, to express your talent, to make a living with your skill. You are given a space. You are not stifled. Secondly, there are checks and balances that are in place. And these are necessary tools in good governance. They are very needed in good governance. And Kenya is very, very well positioned in terms of checks and balances. So there are areas where you can seek recourse peacefully and take that course. If you feel aggrieved and you feel maybe something was not done right, the country gives you the opportunity and the space to go to court and seek recourse in the court, but allow the court to make a decision and accept the verdict.
Even if you don't agree with it.
Even if you don't agree with it.
Yes.
That is part of life. That is part of life. Yes.
And that brings into sharp focus then the whole subject of institutions and structures. Because then you can be driven with your self-ambition, even if you believe and you know it is for the good of the people. But somehow within the system, the structures, you don't quite fit in, or they find you less than optimal. How do you then navigate that space?
Yeah, the requirements of good governance is that we need institutions in a democratic space. These institutions are meant to serve the ordinary citizen. And what the citizens need is enough information about these institutions. That we have this service provider, let's say the service provider of electricity. He or she is there to ensure that we have electricity. In the case you are not satisfied with this service, these are things you should do as an ordinary person, because these institutions are not meant for those who are high in the echelons of power.
For the good
they
of all.
are meant for the ordinary person, to provide service for all. And you need that information so that you can always take the service provider at task. And the service provider should know that he or she is there to serve these people. They are the kings. They are the bosses. These citizens. You are there to serve them. You are a public servant. You serve these people. They are the kings. Now, one of the checks and balances when it comes to conflict mediations and arbitrations, they are also meant for ordinary citizens. They are not meant for any special Kenyan. These institutions for arbitrations, for cases, litigations, they are meant to serve you. And they are there to serve you. The only thing you need is information. And we have people who have gone to school, our children who have gone to school, who are there. Just ask one of them, how do I do? What do I do if I'm not satisfied with 1, 2, 3? They will put you in there. and we will continue enjoying peace while you also get recourse of your grievance. So there is no need to rock boats and to cause any unnecessary turmoil in the country. Yes. So it is provided for.
Now, when one is a leader then, and you have within the populace dissenting views, should that then be perceived as people who are rocking the boat just because they don't necessarily align their mindset with yours?
It is still part of good governance that you provide space for people to express themselves. And like I said, I've seen in Kenya has done well in terms of governance. Of course, there are rooms for improvement, like in every African country. But we are doing very well in terms of governance. People are free to express themselves, and it is provided for. Look, I have observed elections elsewhere in this continent, and I have seen not very good examples where I couldn't see what I am seeing here. I mean, here you have polling stations, you have counting that is done in open, and the polling agents are there, they are watching, and at the end, ballots are counted, every one of them representing his or her own political affiliation signs that I agree, and that verdict is final. There is no cookie here. I'm not preempting anything, but it's something that we need to appreciate.
Appreciate, yeah.
Yeah, there could be some loopholes, some inadequacies. It's okay, but we cannot throw the baby with the water. So there are very good governance examples in our space in Kenya, and those who are showing grievance should also show them in a much civil way. It's okay to show grievance, and I have seen that people are free to do that, provided they are not overstepping. If you overstep, then you know that this is wrong and I'm getting myself in trouble.
Sure.
Express your grievance in a manner that is civil, and don't overstep the law. And there are institutions where you can always seek recourse. But all in all, let us accept that in a democracy, there is only one winner. And even that statement, is not adequate, because at the end we are all one, and we are all winners, because the country is the country that wins, and if the country wins and we are part of that country, we are all winners. So I think the democratic dispensation of Kenya provides a space where people are free to express their grievance and their joy, and in a give and take manner, in a very peaceful manner, and that should be encouraged.
And when it now comes to the whole subject of when you are in leadership and the role that you play in being a unifying factor and working with others to promote the good general welfare of all, and you don't get elected, and all along you thought that was your trajectory, your calling in life, until the people say, not now.
People should appreciate that we cannot all be in leadership positions. But it doesn't mean that leaders are only those who are in leadership position. And leadership, like I said, is an innate function. It's inside of you to influence a cause. To influence a cause. Now, influence that innate influence could just be the salt
Yes.
that the society needs. And don't ever underestimate yourself because you are not in a position of leadership. Because you could be so needed in that space that your absence in that space could have been otherwise. So even if you're not in a position, you are functioning. You have a cause. You have things that you want for a country that are so needed by that country. That is your role. Project those things. Make them known. Write them. Put them in the domain. If those who are taking over positions of leadership to implement their ideas, and by extension, the ideas of the Kenyans, may miss your ideas, do leadership by multiplication, where you will have people who believe so much in you and your ideas that they will take those ideas and go forward. We are in a democratic dispensation in Kenya, which we must protect and we must perpetuate. Those people who will take over from you will continue sharing and educating the populace. And maybe in the future, one of them will be elected. And the same idea or ideas or cause for your leadership one day will be implemented. It is not necessarily now and never. It could be now we need this, and then tomorrow we will need something different. We spice the whole discourse of the whole space of our existence by our diversity.
You know, I was thinking and I got to realize the reference I was making offset that the place of the Christian in being the light and the salt of this world. And I gave the metaphor of when you put salt to meat, it is the meat that is salty. It is not the salt that is meaty. I can actually now confirm where I had it by my senior pastor at Nairobi Baptist, Reverend Mulandi. So how would you then help unpack for those who then get in seeking to be in elective position, and then the general populace is not informed or educated enough to realize part of getting there is to acquire power to give you, to enable you, achieve your manifesto in terms of delivering or your ideas. But it's not just about power for power's sake acquisition. That as we evolve, where is the place of the independents who then would seek solace in running on their own and their increasing significance? Because there could be the number that you need in that legislative process for you to become effective as a leader.
Yeah. Salt in the meat does not become meat, but it salts the meat. Your ideas are needed for the betterment of the country. So continue functioning. Continue functioning. continue propagating those ideas, they are somehow a salt in the whole leadership discourse of a country. Never mind you are not in a position, but your ideas, I assure you, are needed. And in one way, they are going to be adopted. Not necessarily because they are not going to be implemented when you are in position of leadership. They will be adopted somehow. I have seen it somewhere. You are not in a position of leadership, but you have ideas. Your ideas are taken, and they are implemented. And so you must get satisfaction that you have contributed to the livelihood of the society and the nation. So it's not about position. It's about you and functioning in your democratic space, which functioning spices the whole country in the right direction. It may not be taken wholesale, but some of those are necessary. So you have a role. You are needed. You are needed in the whole in the larger picture, but not necessarily in the position. So don't take yourself, so positional that the lack of position makes you irrelevant. Leadership, I emphasize, is not position. Leadership is the innate function in an individual to influence a course of direction. You can influence. There are many leaders who have influenced a course without being in a position. Martin Luther King didn't need a position to make the impact that he has made in the American society. He didn't need a position.
No.
So you don't need a position to play a role. Leadership is not position. Sometimes position can be a handicap for a leader. And sometimes you should be grateful and thankful that you are not trapped in a leadership position, but you are a leader who is free to function and show disposition of that innate function inside of you. Nelson Mandela was in a presidency position for a while. But I can imagine that, an icon like Nelson Mandela, could have easily advocated for life presidency. It's me and nobody else. But he stepped in position of leadership. But even before he stepped in the position, the man was a leader. He functioned. Look at the followership that he galvanized. He stepped in a position. Despite the popularity he was, in a short while, he stepped out. Now we are celebrating Nelson Mandela as a global icon, not just as a country icon, an ANC icon, but South Africans across political lines celebrate Nelson Mandela because he stepped out of a leadership position, but still was Nelson Mandela with that innate function where he influenced a certain cause for a country. And they are always making reference for him. Even when you have people in position of leadership, he is celebrated as an icon by South Africans and by the world. So you don't necessarily need a position to function as a leader. Spice, you are a salt. And your saltiness is only what is needed by the country, and get fulfilled in seeing yourself playing that role.
And when elected, when you offer yourself for elective position and you get elected, and the people, your supporters, for whatever motivation, seem to want you to remain there. It could be more for what they are able to get because you are there, less about you feeling that, well, the fire is going down, I need to step off. So do you wait until you're kicked off, or what?
That's one of the things that, we need to address as Africans. It is incumbent upon you as a leader to leave legacy. It's incumbent. You can listen to the majority of your followers and stay there perpetually and ruin your legacy. You have been elected in a leadership position. You have functioned. You have done well. Now, one thing about leadership position, it has a time frame. But leadership does not have a time frame. Leadership position has a time frame.
It's the position.
The position.
Not leadership.
Leadership position has a time frame. Observe the leadership time frame. Your observing leadership time frame is also leadership credential. But you can lose that leadership credential of failing to observe time frame for leadership position and ruin your leadership and your legacy. So appreciate your followers for the opportunity they accorded you. But with a grateful heart, thank them. And thank them that they still love you, but leave the leadership position. There is a time when a leader grows. In fact, a leader should always grow. And when you are in a leadership position, you grow as a leader. And you outgrow position. But if you don't see the timing that it is time for me to leave the position because I have outgrown the position, you are going to limit yourself to the position, and the position is going to limit you from fully becoming the leader that you were meant to be. Let me assure those who are in leadership positions that there is much in store for you outside the position. You have a role as a leader outside that position. And sometimes that position is limiting you. You have outgrown the position, leave the position. Take another level of a father figure where all come to you. Those that support you and those who did not support you should now come to you for guidance. Now you have outgrown the position. Somebody else takes the position and functions within the perimeters of the position. You respect that position and its limitation. Respect that person, but allow yourself to function, to continue functioning as a father figure in the nation. And you will be surprised how the continent has been waiting for you. But you limited yourself that long, and you will even say, that position limited me. That position wasted my time. Look at me now. You can easily become continental because of how you handled your pre-position leadership, your position leadership, and your post-position leadership, the way you handle that, can put you at a level where you are sought after, not just by Kenyans, but by the whole continent. They will be in discussion somewhere, your name will crop up. But the person who can do this is so and so. And the next time you have a delegation and you are continental, more than a country. So that is leadership versus leadership position.
And what quickly comes to mind is the whole subject then of legacy.
Yes.
When do you begin? Because there are those who say, let me work on my legacy. It's like, let me start now. But when does legacy shaping start?
It's their life.
It's entire life.
It's their life. Your life.
And is it more of the software side of things or more of the tangible look, feel, and touch that I say, this is my legacy. This glass is my legacy. Because if I'm not here, at least the glass is there. Which is more important in terms of the software side of things or the legacy side of things?
Legacy is not necessarily tangible. Legacy can be both intangible and tangible. I mean, we have extraordinary personalities in history.
Yes.
That have left legacy.
And positive legacies, because again, legacy is not necessarily that just because you have a legacy, it is positive.
Yes. So there are people who have extraordinary legacies without tangibility, and later you'll find their legacy influenced tangibility in the course of time. So you don't have to wait until you have done everything. You can't do everything. Accept that you are a person and you are limited. And you can only do that much. And do as much as you can in a given time and space and live. And it's so good, especially when you live when people still want you. It's so sad to overstay or stay until people don't like you. That's the worst.
And they reject you.
That's the worst thing a leader should do. When people are celebrating you, read the times and exit the position. And so that there is decency, and where is he? Where does he stay? We want him. They can always go to you.
And in fact, I think in Africa there's a lot of you begin wondering whether it was you, the person they were respecting, or the office that you are holding. Because tomorrow you get out of the office and they may not remember you, the person.
Yeah.
I will not name names, but there was a former minister, member of parliament, in fact, in a previous election when he was not elected, and he wrote a letter telling the constituents of how they'll regret not electing for all the good that you'd have wanted to do. I mean, surely you do not want to get to that level.
You don't impose such. You earn, and it's people who say you are good. you don't
I'm
insist.
good for you.
It's people who are to make that judgment.
Yes.
Yes. So respect the limitedness of leadership position. It's part of a credential in a leader, that respecting of the limitedness of the leadership.
And as we're about to wind down the next 2-3 minutes, if you could kindly just speak to the whole subject of before one gets elected into a position, what do you surrender that hitherto could have been perceived or understood to be a right that now becomes more of a privilege?
That's very interesting. And
Because then you belong to the people. You are ours. You stop belonging to yourself.
Precisely. When we started, I said Africa needs leadership for effectiveness and efficiency. Mm-hmm. There should be a cause that motivates you towards aspiring that position of leadership. Efficiency in the public sector institutions. And you are going to be a pace setter and ensure that the ordinary citizen is key. Probity, decency, morality, ethics, and leadership. Investors need that. Responsibility. Investor needs to know you are carrying in you a mentality of stewardship, and you are so responsible that his investments or her investments are so safe. It's leadership with responsibility. Representativeness. Representativeness. You know, in the Bible, it's interesting. When you look at the regalia of the priest, the embroidering had 12 stones, 6 on one shoulder, 6 on the other shoulder. Each one of those stones representing the tribe of Israel. That the priest should always be mindful of his or her representativeness. That is what leaders need to know. They are carrying the aspirations of the ordinary Kenyans. Oftentimes, leaders go into leadership position for themselves. They are going to make people serve them. They are going to use their leadership position to accord themselves certain portions because they couldn't do when they were not in leadership positions. That is bad, and it should not be in any leader that is taking the office. When you aspire the position of leadership, you lose your personal privileges that it's about me. You lose that. You take the representativeness capacity inside of you. And that is why you should go into that position with utmost soberness and trembling, as it were, that I am representing here an ordinary Kenyan. I have seen them. They are not employed. They are underpaid. I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying this is the reality. I'm seeing the challenges that they are carrying. And here I am. This office is not about you. This office is about Kenyans, each one of them. When you step in that office, it's Kenyans, all of them, who are in that office. When you sit in that chair, it's Kenyans, you are representative. When you rise in that seat, Kenya has risen. When you step in the office, let's say at the United Nations, Kenya has entered. That is the leadership with representativeness. And you should always be conscious of this as a leader. Always. You miss this, you are missing your role as a leader in the leadership. So it should be leadership for representation of the people. So this should be in the forefront. That is why it was here. Always reminding them, you are carrying lives. So these leaders who go into leadership position and they suddenly amass wealth for themselves, they are missing it. The people who are supposed to have land and who are supposed to have this means are these people you are carrying. And you should be fighting for them. Your legislation and policies should reflect that in your leadership.
Indeed, indeed, there's a cost to it, but leadership at the end of the day, whether one is not elected, you are still a leader. And those who aspire into that position should realize that it is a calling to serve, no matter the position. We're all called to be leaders in our respective areas of influence. Well, that is it for today. Dr. Obi, asante sana.
Asante. May God bless Kenya.
Thank you very much. So let's do this next week, same time. God bless.